So last week I hopped under my 2007 F-150. This has the little 4.2 liter V6 in it, so it's got the small engine in this model of the truck. And I hopped under it to do a regular oil change, and I found that it was an oily mess down there. And I'll try and put some pictures up on the screen of what I found. Looking around, it looked to me like there was an oil leak coming from the front crankshaft seal. I'm gonna go over here and watch this airplane take off. But it looked to me like the leak was coming from the front crankshaft seal. So I went ahead and stopped the oil change, or didn't do the oil change. I sprayed everything down with brake cleaner, and I came back after driving it for a day, and I found this and confirmed it does look like I have a bad front crankshaft seal. So we are gonna go ahead and swap that out today. So the first things first, I am short, and since I'm gonna be doing a lot of working over the front of the truck, I went ahead and set the front end down on blocks just to get me a lot closer. Don't worry, it is just sitting on the rotors. I didn't set it on the dust shields on the back, so I didn't bend up my dust shields. It's just sitting there on the rotors. So anyways, I gotta get down into the front. I'm gonna have to pull this front cowl thing. I'm gonna have to pull the radiator fan shroud. I'm gonna have to pull the radiator fan and pull the belts and everything to get down to the whatever they call it, the harmonic dampener, or the crank pulley. Get down to the crank pulley. I'm gonna have to pull that crank pulley off and get that seal out of there. So since I'm gonna be doing so much work over the front of the truck, I went ahead and lowered it down about, I got myself probably 8 inches of drop there. So that's a big deal for a short guy like me. Because the truck now is gonna be slanted forward, and if I pulled that front crank seal out, it would just pour oil over the place. I have already drained the oil and put a new oil filter in it, so it is ready for an oil change after we get this this crank seal swapped out. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing I'm going to have to do on this 2007 F-150, I think it's probably the same for 04 to 08, those are all pretty similar, is I got to pull this front cowl or shroud or whatever off. It's just held in with a bunch of these Phillips head screws. So I got one there, I got one there, I got a couple here tying it to the radiator fan shroud, another one here, and another one over here. Okay, I went ahead and pulled that cowl off, and I went ahead and got the air intake off. So I had some aftermarket cold air intake that's on this truck. So that won't match what you have on your stock truck. So you'll have some sort of plastic air box and everything that you'll have to remove. I think the stock air pickup location is in that hole right there. So that is what you'll have to remove, that air box, but since mine doesn't match yours, I didn't talk about it. The next step is going to be to pull this radiator fan shroud off. And it looks to me like you have 2 bolts. There's one on this side, and then there's another one down there. Underneath the upper radiator hose, and then the whole thing should just slide out. It should clip in on the bottom, but if I find any more bolts, I'll let you know. So the radiator fan shroud is free, but I cannot snake it past the fan. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the fan. And to do this, I didn't have the tool, or a tool that you need, so I bought this off of Amazon. I think it was like $10. I don't even think it was $15. I'm pretty sure it was less than $15. I have no idea if it's gonna be good or not, but I'm gonna go ahead and give her a shot. So you have this wrench on the left side with these 2 different sets of holes right here. If you get in here and you look at your radiator fan, you have a bolt there and a bolt there. So there's 4 It's like 4 bolts holding on that radiator fan, and that slips over 2 of them, and that gives you a backup so that you can back that nut out. So you're gonna have 2 fans, or 2 wrenches. You have that skinny wrench, normal wrench on that nut, and then you're gonna have the other one that covers the heads of those 2 bolts, and that should, see if I can get that to focus on that for you. And that should give you backup in order to break that clutch fan bolt off. Well, now that we got some more room for activities, we're gonna need to take the belt off. So it looks to me like this is my belt tensioner over here. It looks like it is actuated with a, see if I can find that, a T50. So you're gonna need a T50 drive in order to loosen that so we can rotate that this pulley, rotate it up out of the way, take some of the tension off this belt, and get it out of the way. So I went ahead and took some pictures of this. You really need to make sure you remember the routing. I took some pictures just to be safe. I was lucky on my cow. My diagram is still in really good shape, so I can see that I have the 4.2 liter with AC. So I'm looking at the top picture here, and it does wrap around the AC. So I'm gonna go ahead and break that tensioner off and see if we can get that belt out of the way. So that was silly. Nix everything that I just said. I'm used to working on older things where you tension a belt by putting like a pry bar on an alternator. This tensioner here is, you don't have to remove that T50 Torx drive. You can just throw a wrench on this bolt right here, and the whole thing is spring loaded, and it just pulls out of the way. Well, I didn't know that, but I know that now, so that was pretty straightforward, and now the belt is loose, and you can just pull it right off. Okay, so now that the bolt is off, we are after this guy down here. Way down here in the bottom is the one that we have to pull. And so I can't hardly see what's going on down there. And this is the pulley that we're after. So I don't want to rotate my engine over to the best of my ability. I don't know what size that is. I'll let you know when I figure it out. And I'm gonna try and throw an impact on it and see if I can get that crank pulley bolt to break. So it was a 21 millimeter, and I was able to get it out really easy with an impact. I had to swap my impact over into kill mode, but once I had it into kill mode, I was able to break that bolt. Let's see if I can reach down in here and get it. There it is. There is my my crank pulley bolt right there. So I don't know how well you can see this. I'm just kind of holding my phone down here in the general vicinity. But inside their pulley, there are 3 kind of bolt holes that are spread around in a circle around the center of that pulley. So I went ahead and threaded that crank pulley bolt back in, probably 3/4 of an inch, so it's got lots of threads on it. I'm going to use that as the base to put the kind of the piston or the driver on my pulley puller up against. But let's go take a look at this other tool that I bought. And once again, I think I bought this. It was also less than $15 off of Amazon. So for this particular job, I think I bought like $30 worth of tools at most. And then a $10 seal over here. And, you know, I would expect if I had taken it to a shop, it would have cost me several $100s for them to do this for me. So I went ahead and bought myself, you know, less than $50 worth of tools, plus my time. But the tools are mine to keep. So that's how I can always kind of justify this. But I'm going to use this kind of crow's foot style puller, and I'm going to run whichever of these bolts fits best through these 3 sides into those bolt holes in that pulley, and then you have this driving bolt that you'll put in the middle, and we'll use that to pull that pulley right off. Okay, I ran into my first snag. It looks like the pulley puller here came with just your standard 5/16 18 coarse thread bolts, and I am gonna need M8 bolts. So I don't keep any metric bolts on hand, so I don't have anything on the shelf that I can use. So I'm gonna have to run to the hardware store to pick up some metric bolts to pull this pulley. Okay, those are a bit of a bear to get started, but I did confirm that they are 8mm bolts, 8mm coarse thread. Let me show you what the puller looks like now that I got it all installed. So this thing is a, like I said, it was pretty tough to get those things started, but now I got them all run in. All of those bolt holes were filled with crud, and I don't have a 8mm tap on hand, so I just filled them full of WD-40, and I ran that bolt in and out of them a few times until I cleaned up all the crud out of them. And now I got my little crow's foot pulley puller installed. Once again, the crank bolt is still in there behind that. So we're gonna go over to our puller set. I don't think I need the spike end, so we'll just hit her with the old flat end and run her through the middle and see if we can get it to move. Okay, we got it started. Let's lube up those threads real good. Okay, that'll make me feel a little better anyways. Haven't found the bolt yet. Okay, so there it is. That's starting to get tight. I should have figured out what size socket that was before. That'll work. And I'm gonna start tightening on that, and we'll see if we can make that pulley start moving. Okay, there is the crank pulley off the front of the crank. We can take a look at it. Everything on it looks just fine to me, but now it's easy to see on the inside here, those were the three bolt holes that I was running that kind of crow's foot pulley puller into. So let's turn it over and take a look at this. First things we're looking at is because we're leaking from our crankshaft pulley seal, we want to make sure that there's nothing wrong with this seal face right here. This groove right here is not supposed to be here. So that is a fairly deep groove. You can definitely catch a fingernail on it. It's pretty, yeah, I mean, you can definitely feel it. So that was from where that seal was riding, and I don't know what went bad. I don't know if that spring somehow wore through the rubber seal, that spring that was inside this, Here's the old one, and you can see how around this edge, inside this edge, there's a spring. So I don't know if that somewhere in here, that on the inside, that spring somehow came into contact with the crankshaft. Maybe right there. I'm not sure. No, that's probably from where I put my pick in it to pull it. Anyways, I am going to have to order a sleeve for this. So a new harmonic balancer is like $100. So instead of putting a whole new harmonic balancer in it, they sell these sleeves that you essentially glue in place around that, and I'm gonna have to order one and try and get one headed my way to replace that. So the other side of that puzzle then, of course, is going to be the crank itself. So let's go down here and take a look at it. So there is my crank. It looks, I will try and get in there and analyze or take a look at the seal faces once I get the seal out. This is really hard to do, film and stuff at the same time, but this around the outside is the seal that I'm gonna pull. This seal right here, and then we'll take a look at how that inner surface looks, and then the outside of the crank. There's my key right there. So my key is pointed up, which is convenient, and the outside of the crank itself feels fine. So we're gonna go ahead and get a seal puller and see if we can get that seal out of there. So here is the seal that I pulled. It's kind of tough to tell if it was damaged before I pulled it or not. Obviously it's been deformed and looks like it's split in a couple places, but that maybe happened while I was pulling it. So we're gonna put a new one in and hopefully that'll fix the problem. So this was the old one. Here is the new one that I'm gonna install, and they do appear to be the same, or it appears to be the right size. So I'll probably grease up the outside of this one, grease up the inside of this one, grease up both faces inside the engine, and then I'm gonna use this seal as my seal driver to try and tap it in. So maybe this with like a block of wood or something, see if I can get around that crankshaft. I'll have to kind of take a look at it when I get down in there and find something to tap that other one in even. Let's go take a look at the crankshaft. So it's kind of hard to see, but at the very, very top of it, on the kind of the top right-hand side, there was a little nick that I just barely kind of ground out smooth with a Dremel real fast. I'm pretty sure that I did that while I was pulling it. I don't think that was a problem, but there was a little nick. I can't reach my other hand down in there and hold the camera at the same time, but a little nick down in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and smear a bunch of grease around that and smear a bunch of grease on the new seal and see if we can get that new seal installed. Okay, that was a pain in the butt, mostly because you can't get like a normal seal driver around your crankshaft. So I was trying to use a piece of PVC that seemed like it was about the right size, and what I ended up doing was just tapping around the edge of it with a block of wood, and that ended up working a lot better. But I do have the seal installed right there now, so that is good to go. Okay, this being a video, I might as well give you the parts that I'm using as well. So the front crank seal, I am using this Timken oil seal. It is part number 2942 is what I used in order for the front crank seal that I'm replacing. Now I just got back from the hardware store and I picked up this repair sleeve. So this is a Precision part number 88187, and this is going to be the sleeve that I'm going to try and install on the crank. Now this is going to be, it's like a friction fit or press fit, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than the OD of the crank seal, or the OD of the crank pulley seal face. Let's go ahead and try and open this box up. It comes with some instructions, but here is the repair sleeve itself, and it comes with a installation tool that you can slide over it, and you can hit this with a hammer to try and tap it down, so we can take a look at where this is going to go. So here is the repair sleeve. Now I've went ahead and I've had the Harmonic dampener sitting in my pulleys, so there's a bunch of food in here, but my Harmonic dampener sitting in my freezer for the last couple hours, and this is going to then slide over that. So I cleaned up this face with some emery cloth and sprayed it all down with some brake clean and got it nice and clean. I'm gonna take this and I am gonna go pop it in the oven, maybe like 250 or 300 degrees, and try and get this to expand so that I can slide this over this face, because right now it still doesn't fit. Now I know I'm gonna have to tap it down. I guess my biggest concern is if you look at this groove here, this groove is fairly deep. Like I say, it may potentially be deeper than the thickness, if I can get it to focus, than the thickness of this sleeve, because the sleeve is so thin. So what I think I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna smear some red Loctite over the outside of the seal face on the crank pulley, just in case something was like that was to happen. If it was to wear through this repair sleeve, I would hate for this sleeve to get cut in half and have an inside ring like fall out into my timing cover or inside my timing cover and get chewed up by my timing chain. I don't know if that's something that happens or not, but I think if I put a little bit of red Loctite on this inside surface, that'll make it so that won't happen, even if for whatever reason this was to get cut. Okay, well, let's do that. Okay, well, I think that is it. I have covered up the groove where the seal was riding. I got some red Loctite in between the crank pulley and the repair sleeve, so we should be able to try and get this slipped back into the car. Okay, so I got my still very cold harmonic balancer, harmonic dampener or whatever, greased up. So I'm trying to get through that seal. So remember we said that the keyway, so here's my key on this. It was up and a little bit to the left. So it's like this part of the pulley should be close to up. Slide that over the crankshaft seal, and I'm gonna need a light down there. This one. There, I got the keyway started. We're going to use the crank bolt and washer here. Let me clean that washer up a little bit, but we'll use that to suck it down. Nice clean washer, nice clean bolts. I put just a little bit of WD-40 on the threads. Don't worry, I'm gonna back it back out. I'm gonna use that WD-40 just to help me press that pulley into the seal for now. Okay, well, I got the pulley. Looks like it's all the way in. Looking down, it lines up with the rest of the accessory drive pulleys. So in this case, I don't have a way to stop the engine from rotating. I guess I could set the parking brake, which it is, and put it in gear, but I'm nervous about if I put it in gear and put a bunch of effort or put a bunch of torque on that, it's gonna try and cause it to roll forward and roll off my blocks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up, now that I've got the pulley set, and it looks to me, I can't really see the seal anymore. We're gonna hope that that's good. I'm gonna clean up my threads again, and I'm gonna run her down with an impact, but I'm gonna put just a little bit of blue Loctite on it, not red, blue, and that'll be my, as opposed to torquing it down to whatever the factory specs are, I'll have just a little bit of blue Loctite on it. Okay, there we are with a little bit of blue. Let's go ahead and get that back in. We'll go ahead and run it back down. Okay. Front crank seal replaced, and harmonic balancer has been sleeved. And because the belt was the same belt that was in there from 2007, it was the original belt, I'm gonna go ahead and throw a new belt on it because I've already gone through all this effort. This is the belt number that I am going to be installing. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we got to put the radiator fan back in it. So the water pump will be tied to the water pump right here. And we got to put the radiator fan shroud back in it. Now remember, I had to pull those out together because there wasn't enough room and to snake the shroud around the fan or to snake the fan through the shroud. So they have to go back in together at the same time as well. So I'll put the fan inside the shroud and slip everything down. I'll probably go ahead and bolt down the shroud, and then we'll jump up to the fan. So let's move this, find something steel. It's amazing how much stuff in this engine bay is aluminum. So next, we're going to go ahead and put this kind of front plastic cowl back on and install all those fasteners or those clips for that. Okay, so I had one here, I had one here, I had two connecting it to one right here in the middle, one connecting it to the fan shroud here, one connected to the fan shroud here, and one connecting it on both sides of the piece. So I'm going to do something just a little bit different than what I took out. So here are these, after you put those clips in, they have these kind of plastic screws, if I can get it to focus, plastic screws that you install, and you can see that they're really crappy. I kind of stripped all the heads out, and I don't see any reason why they have to be plastic. So I went and got, for a couple bucks at the store, just some stainless 8 by 3/4 inch sheet metal screws that kind of have that button cap on the top, and I think those will accomplish the exact same goal. So they'll cause those clips to spread, but these will work a lot better. All right, and that'll be a lot easier to remove if I ever have to get in there again. Okay, so we are all back together. I took it for a drive around the block and oil wasn't just pouring out of it. So what I did is I went ahead and inside the engine bay and on the underside, I sprayed everything down with oven cleaner, let it sit for a little bit, gave it a pressure wash. So now I'll just be keeping an eye on, turn some light on for you, keeping an eye on this front crank pulley here. So I'll be keeping an eye up on this right here to see if it starts leaking again. The leak that I had before was very slow, so it may take it a day or two to
manifest itself, but I'll drive it around and keep an eye for it. And if ever I park it somewhere and come back and it's got a big pool of oil under it, well, I'll know that all failed somewhere. But for now, it does appear that I do have everything at least buttoned up for the time being. So I'm going to call that a success, and we'll see what happens in the weeks to come.